Enterprise AI at Scale. May I please introduce the speakers and our moderator to take over the stage. Farouk El Hamzawi, the go-to-market lead for Middle East and North Africa, OpenAI. Please do come to the stage, Farouk. Ashish Koshy, the CEO of Inception, a G42 company. Dennis Yoll, CEO of AIQ. And our moderator, Otria Godfrey of Web's Edge. Please, my esteemed audience, give them a big, warm welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. As she was just mentioning, as business executives and industry leaders are here in the room with us, we all want to know, how do we pivot from those pilot AI projects to implement some integrated AI strategies with some real-world tangible results? So let's get right to it. Farouk from OpenAI, you're first up today. My question for you is, where do you see the biggest adoption challenges for industries and enterprises that deploy those frontier AI models?
Yeah, first of all, it's fantastic to be here, and jumping into sort of the question, what we've sort of typically seen in the past 2 years, especially having been at OpenAI, the number one question we get is like, where do we start and how can we set ourselves up for success? And we really narrow it down to about 4 to 5 things that we really mentioned to these executives to really think about and focus on. The first is really just around like, how do you lower the barrier to access? Make sure that you can make your employees and individuals really understand and get grounded in the reality of what this technology is capable of. The second thing is also just lead by example. A lot of these boards and executives always typically say, we want to do X, Y, and Z, but they don't sort of do the thing itself. And so I think naturally we want executives to also be able to share how they are also operating in the same way that they expect their employees. The third is just also around, people typically try and bolt AI onto legacy systems or workflows. And this is really an opportunity to sort of start reimagining new ways of doing things from scratch. And so we'll really try and push the boundaries of what's possible there. And maybe the final thing I'll touch on is, AI governance in general. I think there's a lot of restrictions that we typically see companies putting on their employees, and so naturally we try and ask, in the beginning at least, to sort of calm those down and let them sort of experiment with it, and that's naturally where you'll let the innovation start to spark and come through.
Would your advice be to just start fresh with a new type of AI technology rather than try to add some sort of AI program onto some sort of antiquated platform?
Yeah, and ultimately it's about thinking just of the experience from scratch. What is ultimately the goal that you're trying to achieve here? And I think the more that you can sort of remove those shackles of legacy systems and workflows, the more you can really think about some new fresh ways of doing things.
So what are some specific examples of how you and your company, OpenAI, help companies overcome these initial hurdles?
Yeah, and I think one of the good things to sort of highlight, purely from a contextual perspective, is it's very easy to sort of bring companies along with you in this journey. If you look at the UAE, for example, there's sort of tons of momentum already in market. I think just over the last year, we've already seen adoption and users sort of triple since 2024. And so we can sort of use that as a way to kind of build on top of that. And typically what we want to focus on with these organizations is, how can you then really focus on 1 to 3 bets of what you can really go out and do? There's so many different things that you can go out and achieve, but really narrowing your focus is how you sort of rally the troops, so to speak, on what you want to go after versus sort of all these other distractions. So again, you want to balance the innovation with a bit of focus as to what you're working towards overall.
Ashish, I want to bring you in here at Inception, which is a G42 company. You've been advancing key domain-specific AI-powered products. Can you elaborate on your in-business suite and specifically what that offers to organizations that are looking to gain AI-driven insights to boost their efficiency and innovation?
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. It's a privilege to be part of this esteemed panel. To your question, I would like to add a little bit of what Inception does. Inception used to be a research institute, so we have a team of wonderful researchers working on difficult domain problems. So it was easy for them to break down complex domain issues into solutions. So we've got multiple solutions on two main pillars, one on domain-specific solutions where we work closely with AIQ team. On the energy AI, we have an investment AI agentic platform called InAlpha. We work closely with multiple boards on the board observer, but specifically on the in-business suite. If you heard Peng's session in the morning, that to how do we reach a stage where we have agents running a lot of work on, in his ratio, 10:1 ratio. We have the in-business suite where you can deploy agents on all back office operations, be it you want HR, you want finance, you want legal, all with connectors that work with frontier models like OpenAI to run immediately out of the box there. That's the in-business suite. Our solutions there is not specifically around just efficiency improvement, but ensuring human is in the loop to make intelligent decisions using those agents.
And when we were talking about the elephant in the room earlier about workforce reduction, I think a lot of people will be happy to hear you say that we keep the human in the room. The person is still there. Within the G42 ecosystem, Inception functions as the core intelligence layer. Why is taking data and compute infrastructure and then turning that into real-world applied solutions so important when it comes to scaling AI technologies?
So we believe in an ethos. Scaling AI is not just about building larger models, not just about throwing a lot of compute, but also is about how do you turn the existing capacity into a capability. So if you look in that, Inception is positioned in the G42 Intelligence Grid, in a way you have Kazna, you have Core42, which provides the compute. We work with companies as Presight, AIQ, M42, Space42, where the data comes in, and we are sort of the intelligence layer that actually builds these solutions collectively with our partners across. Scaling AI, I think you would always need to work with what's available right now. And the previous analogy of if data is fuel, compute is engine, we believe we are the vehicle or that customizes that to what a customer wants. Or we also search for customers that work with our current products that we can scale at using cloud compute. That's pretty much how we operate there.
It's how you build the car. All right, Dennis, I want to get industry specific with it now. And AIQ has certainly been at the forefront of applying AI to optimize energy operations. What business and sustainability gains have you already observed?
Well, just a quick note to follow up on what Ashish was saying. AIQ is the domain specialist when it comes to the energy sector for our vision, G42's vision of the intelligence grid. We're a joint venture between ADNOC and Presight, and we've actually developed over 200 use cases. We've actually productized about 14 of them, and actually have now transformed the field, whether it's offshore at ADNOC or onshore. So we're really excited. We've seen a lot of sustainability gains through that, and continue to work on new products.
And sustainability is such an important topic, especially when you're talking about AI. Scaling AI solutions across complex energy infrastructure can certainly be high risk, which I think you'll agree with. In these mission-critical industrial environments, even small, minor errors can have massive complications and implications and consequences. So how have you been able to mitigate those risks?
We actually always keep the human in the loop for whatever we do. Because of all the risks associated with it, we always, whether we develop our products, whether we deploy it, we always keep the human in the loop and make sure that we maintain a human in that envelope.
I love that we're hearing keep the human in the room over and over again. I think that's going to calm a lot of fears when it comes to AI. Ashish, I want to go back to you because another key component is obviously staying up to date with regulation. So given how quickly AI innovation is happening on the daily basis, how do you maintain regulatory compliance?
So AI and innovation cannot go independently without regulations. And at G42, its compliance is in our DNA all the way across all steps, whether it be fine-tuning a model, building data sets, or even deployment. We have that compliance culture across engineering, legal, and is applied at scale. How we look at it is, if you want to scale AI products, we need to build it in the right way in the beginning itself. And similarly, we use compliance as a moat. That's something that we give when we walk into customers, when we deploy it at scale at enterprises, they know it's compliant and they can scale it immediately. So that's crucial. And we work closely with the responsible AI function in G42, where we have the G42 Frontier AI Safety Framework, we have governance boards, multiple red teams. So it works in a way that not only gives us comfort, but when you deploy it at the customer, they believe that this actually is AI that they can trust.
How hard is it, though, to maintain that compliance when you're dealing with multiple jurisdictions, cross-border collaborations, and really a patchwork, if you will, of regulatory laws?
So I think that's the reason why countries are getting together on the responsible AI function. As Peng mentioned, we've partnered with Microsoft on the responsible AI function that brings these frameworks together to ensure that it respects every country's sovereign laws, but ensures also that the customers get what they want at the same time.
We were speaking earlier about how, AI, the innovation is happening so quickly that really the toothpaste is out of the tube, and now we're trying to figure out a way to kind of put the guardrails on it. Do you find that to be the case of maintaining regulatory compliance, is that we're kind of all just figuring out it as we go?
It's a yes and a no, right? It depends on which use case. So we work across industries. If it is a healthcare use case, you can't do that. You can't apply that. But if it's automating a back office within an enterprise, it is possible because you're working with the SMEs and they know what is sensitive information, which is not. So again, it's a yes or no depending on what use case you would apply that to.
Such a diplomatic answer. All right, Dennis, let's come back to you. I want to bring in the workforce component. And like I said, I think it's going to be music to everyone's ears that we keep going back to the idea of we've got to keep humans in the room. AI will not replace us. But how important is it to the successful implementation and scaling of AI that we upskill the workforce?
Well, very important. We've been super fortunate that we've had, through our shareholdings, we've had the subject matter experts from ADNOC, and we've also had the tech experts from G42 and Presight. So we've been able to develop solutions that actually were created by the subject matter experts in the workforce. So, we always look at it, and we always look at, not only optimization, because I think that's the simple way to look at it, but it's really the multiplication of what AI can do. Because that's really where the true transformation comes in, is we can actually multiply the things that we're doing as opposed to just optimizing.
But as a business owner, are you seeing dollar signs when it comes to the prospect of having to upskill, say, tens of thousands of employees so they can get on board?
It should. I mean, ultimately, every solution that we do has got to actually make our customers money or save our customers money. It has to be a viable business decision, and therefore, that multiplication is really where we get the true value.
How would you calm the fears of a workforce worried that they're going to be completely replaced by AI?
Well, one of our board members, Thomas, always talks about, you're not going to lose your job to AI, you'll lose your job to someone using AI. And I'd probably double down on that, even for companies. You won't lose to AI, but you lose against companies that actually utilize AI.
Better learn it or lose it. All right, Farouk, back to you. I want to talk specifically, given that we are here in the UAE, about how OpenAI works with Middle Eastern, South African companies and enterprises to support responsible, scalable AI solutions.
Yeah, I think, and I just want to allude to one of the earlier points that was touched on, which is around the regulation and also how quickly things are moving. I want to say, just even from the OpenAI perspective, it's a lot for us too, and we're in the industry. So whether you're in healthcare or whether you're in energy, we totally get it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest areas where we can be supportive of enterprises along that journey, is how do you make sure these organizations, these product teams, really have a good understanding of the frontier, what's happening today, but also what's to come down the line. And ultimately, whatever you're building for is being built into that curve as opposed to against it. And I think that's kind of one of the crucial parts of making sure that whatever you're working towards is set up for success ultimately for the long term. So that's, I guess, one of the core parts, and I think more broadly, it's about how do you then build an AI strategy around it, right? Again, we talked about the workforce elevation piece, but also then making sure that they're set up for success for whatever they're building towards.
Do you have any specific case studies where you've seen generative AI have a positive and successful impact?
Yeah, and just to kind of take you back for some context, I think what we typically see within industry today is, whether you look at San Francisco or like Y Combinator and what startups want to focus on, is some very exciting and cool technology, right? But a lot of these enterprises, one of the biggest challenges that they face is with these legacy systems or workflows like, procurement or ERP systems. No one really wants to sort of dabble in that. But those are very big rocks that these organizations want to fix from a cost standpoint. And so actually working with a financial services company here, one of the key areas that they focused on was how do we sort of, again, try and make that process more efficient for us. And anecdotally, one of the key stats they shared with us is they were actually able to reduce their IT vendor policy documentation by about 65% by leveraging AI to, again, synthesize some of the work and therefore, reduce cost and make a lot of the processes for procuring new services a lot faster. So again, it's the less exciting stuff where we typically see employees who are close to the problem being able to solve it because we give them the tools and they feel more empowered to go out and do it themselves.
Absolutely. Ashish, kind of a similar question to you, and as AI adoption expands, obviously measuring tangible impact is very critical. How do you move from technical proof to business transformation?
So it's straightforward for us. What we focus is on the outcome. We don't look at deploying AI solutions to just automate tasks, because to the point that you mentioned of, is AI going to take my job? Because that's such an industrial revolution type mindset, because everything was around automation. And you're looking at that and saying, okay, will I be irrelevant when this comes up because my task, it can be automated? I think that's not the problem we have to focus on. We have to focus on, we need to redesign the way we work around AI. And that means workflow redesign. It's a mindset change that needs to be put across directly from the previous speakers that mentioned, from the leadership. It's not just the technology readiness, it has to be a mindset shift that we will not just automate an individual's workflow, but now allow him to imagine how the workflow should be around AI. And that's the problem that we have. And when we sit in a discovery sessions with enterprise, we always ask them, what is the outcome that you're trying to, and then let us co-design the shortest human AI journey to that path. And that defines KPIs, that could be a balanced scorecard approach, depends on whatever the use case is. So if you always look at it as what outcome is AI trying to solve, as opposed to some of the POCs or the proof of concepts, we have leadership's blessings, and then we go to I like to call it the death by POCs. We go to the subject matter expert, and he would have a conversation with the AI workflow designer, automate my task. This is what I do. No, I think you're looking at it wrong. How can you change the way you work, the way you adapt around AI? And that's the difficult part, which is a sort of a cultural mind shift change, but it is coming. It is coming.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I want to kind of put the three of you on the spot for a moment. Yesterday, I did a talk with Carlo Nizam from Emirates Global Aluminum, and he said that we should all be adopting AI as a friend, not foe, because from the employee perspective, he thinks it could lead to a 4-day work week. Quick answer, yes or no? Anyone? You don't want to go on the record yet as saying that?
I still believe that AI will make sure that we have a lot more to do, not a lot less to do.
That's a very good answer. All right, Dennis, I want to ask you about, energy systems. They are highly regulated. They do involve multiple stakeholders. How has AIQ been able to foster collaboration between technology teams, operators, and regulators to successfully implement AI?
Sometimes we take it for granted here in the UAE that our leadership is very visionary and very aligned. And here in the UAE, we've been able to take advantage of, Core 42 sovereign infrastructure. We've been able to collaborate with Inception for the intelligence layer. We've been able to collaborate with ADNOC to develop new products and new tools. As we go around the world, you see that what we have here is very different, and that everyone needs that type of alignment within their regulators, within their leadership, because that's what's going to make AI successful, is that alignment in that infrastructure.
All right, we're down to our final 60 seconds, and I want to come to a personal angle from the three of you. Quick answers. Do you use AI in your personal life? And if so, what was the last thing that you used it for? Ashish, you're up first.
So definitely I use it a lot of times, and the last thing I used it is to become a landscaper at my villa, to understand the difference between a plumeria plant and in Argentina, which would work around the landscape. So it's definitely helping in a lot of personal work.
Yeah, It's basically helping me be a good parent, and I'll tell you why. One of the main things.
Please do tell.
Yeah, my son starts school in the UK next year, and so as someone who's relatively new to the academic system there, it's been helping me do a ton of research around which schools, why, how competitive it can be, and yeah, just helping me figure out where he should go. So that's the pro tip.
And you're certainly using ChatGPT. No questions. Dennis?
I'd say the same thing. I mean, I just used it last night. My 13-year-old daughter, I'm not really sure what she's become, so I'm actually trying to learn how to actually manage her as a little daughter that I used to have, and now turning into an adult. So yes, parental advice is very
So the
good.
prompt is, what do I do with a tween?
Exactly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give our panel a round of applause. Thank you all so much for your time today, gentlemen. We really appreciate your insights.